Well, as they say, better late than never. It's time for another Hot Off the Bench. Well, hey guys, and welcome back to another Hot Off the Bench. And I say better late than never because I've been meaning to get this segment on the channel for at least 2.5 weeks. The reason for the delay, a computer crash. I went to turn on my machine one day and it just would not turn back on. And this is something I have been procrastinating about. I've been meaning to replace this machine for quite some time, and that's what I get. I got stuck without a computer, and this is the worst time because of the supply crunch. It's taken 2.5 weeks to get a Mac Mini. I thought it was going to actually take longer, but I finally did get a new one, and I'm ready to put this together for you guys. Now, Wonderfest is at the end of this week, so my plan here, this is May 30th now. I plan to put this video together over the next couple nights here so I can get it on the channel before Louisville. And of course, Wonderfest is coming up, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. I've got everything packed and ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and begin with our slideshow. I want to make mention that I am including 2 models here that are not sci-fi, and I don't intend to start putting more non-sci-fi models on the slideshow. It's just that one is from a gentleman who's contributed pictures to the slideshow before, and he did an incredible job with this build. As I was looking for dioramas, he sent some pictures of this particular one, and I'd like to share it with you guys. And the other is a replica of the SS Minnow. This is something I came across on Facebook. I'm always looking for interesting things on Facebook to share with you guys, so as I've mentioned in the past, I'll reach out to those modelers to see if they'd be open to allowing me to share their work on these slideshows. And this particular gentleman recreated a beautiful replica of the SS Minnow. And Gilligan's Island is a show that I have very fond memories of watching after school. I'm sure many of you guys watched the reruns as I did, and really enjoy that show. So I figured it was something that would be a cool thing to share with you guys, so it's going to be placed at the end of the slideshow. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and get started. We have modelers Tony and Al to kick off this month's slideshow with this cool diorama based on the Invaders TV show. The diorama is inspired by the Invaders episode The Mutation, guest starring Suzanne Flechette. She plays an alien who initially lures David Vincent to the desert with information that she knows the whereabouts of a crashed saucer, but is actually luring him to his death. Along the way, we learn that she is a mutation who can feel emotions and ultimately saves Vincent's life at the cost of her own. Although most often builders paint the saucer silver or gray, replicating the look of the studio model, they decided instead on a light metallic blue with silver landing struts, which apparently is how it appears on TV. Lighting included the use of 5mm SMDs from EvanDesigns, along with a chase light board from Etsy to create the spinning lights. Polyfill was used inside the clear domes to diffuse the light from the SMDs, and to do this with the chase board, they used Kodak photographic paper inside the upper lid. The base is made from a combination of painted plywood and foam board, and they did a great job creating a desert landscape and background. And since they didn't construct the interior, some of the interior parts were incorporated into the base to simulate the saucer being repaired. Now I have to admit, I'm not very familiar with the show, but know of this model, and I'm sure you agree they did a really nice job with it. Thanks guys for sharing. Up next is this beautiful build by modeler David Jacobs. Here he recreates the famous DeLorean from Back to the Future, which also includes this amazing display base. The DeLorean was 3D printed, and the model is available for purchase and download at cgtrader.com. As you can see in these pictures of the build, David heavily modified the model to include all of this interior detailing. And to further add to the build, David printed these figures of Marty and Doc Brown, both of which are also available at CG Trader. He used Mesh Mixer to modify them to fit into the vehicle, and then he expertly painted and detailed them. Gotta love the expression on good old Doc Brown's face there. The DeLorean is outfitted with a Takayuwa RC smoke generator, which modelers typically use for 1/16 scale RC tanks from the manufacturer Hanglong, and it works perfectly here to create an amazing effect. The rotation of the car is accomplished using a stepper motor, and the build also includes repurposed VGA and Cat5 cables, as well as parts from an old filament printer. And if you're wondering about the billboard, yep, CG Trader. What an incredible paint job he did with this as well. The CG Trader links are listed below, and the scale of this build, by the way, is 1/8. So I think David did a tremendous job with this build, and by the way, I actually met David at Wonderfest a few years ago. He built a huge model of a Space 1999 spacecraft, which was quite impressive. Thanks, David, for allowing me to share your work, and it sounds like this one is going to be at Wonderfest, so I'll be lucky to get to see this in person. And up next is a unique take on the Star Trek AMT bridge by modeler Richard Purviance, who detailed it to look like the bridge from The Cage. I don't ever recall seeing a bridge like this, which is why I wanted to share it with you. And as you can see, Richard did a great job capturing the likeness of the original set by making modifications to the kit and choosing colors to match the paint scheme. The figures were painted to mimic the stylings of the velour uniforms used in the pilot. Really nice job with this, Richard. Congratulations on such a great build, and it's very creative indeed. Next is this really nice build of the Polar Lights Galileo by modeler William Dunn. He wanted to also build a base that had plenty of lights and graphics, and I think he certainly succeeded in creating a very nice display base. The landing pad base is made using a heavy gauge steel that he salvaged from an old mainframe computer. He produced the graphics from images he found on the internet, which he sized accordingly to fit into the display. And these were printed on inkjet clear transparency film. William decided not to do any weathering or an interior. This is beautifully done, Bill. Thanks for showing us your work. And here we have this diorama by modeler Max Musterman. This is a 1/72 scale diorama inspired by the 80s sci-fi classic Aliens. The resin kits of the M577 APC along with the two Marines are separately available at retrokitonline.net. The base is also resin and put together from modular bases made from an Aliens board game. The APC was painted with Revell olive drab spray paint, and the Marines and base with Vallejo and AK 3rd Gen acrylic colors. Weathering was done with AK weathering pencils on the APC, along with different washes from Vallejo. This is such a cool design, and you did a great job with it, Max. Thanks for sharing. Next, Michael Walston is back with another unique piece. It's a recreation of the Space Probe No. 1 from the classic Twilight Zone episode The Invaders, seen here after its hacking demise at the hands of a giant. The model was created by cutting open a 17.5-inch wide styrene version of the Forbidden Planet's C-57D, then he added lots of pieces from his spare parts box for the interior and debris. Slots were cut into the dome, and he used a lighter to heat the plastic and pliers to bend the pie-shaped sections to get the axe-damaged look. Among the interior debris are pieces from a flying sub, an Aurora Monster scenes kit, circuit board chips, and plastic eggshells. And the figure is from a Wiley Lay's space taxi kit. He added a nice little touch with a screenshot of Agnes Moorehead taking one last swing of the axe on the little view screen. The screen facing was made using an old Casio digital watch face that had been sitting in the bottom of his parts drawer. Another amazing build there, Michael. Your endless creativity never ceases to amaze me. Thanks for sharing. So here is another very unique piece that I came across on Facebook by builder Bruce Hazumi titled "Idiots, I Told You So! A Diorama in the Age of Discovery." I thought it was absolutely brilliant and just had to share it with you. What we have here is a scene showing a sailing ship at the edge of the world. The piece was created using a 1/350 scale model of the Sir Francis Drake, along with various kinds of media and paints to create the waterfall effect. Here are a few slides of the numerous tests he did before moving on to the final build, and I'll provide you a link to the tutorial which I'd recommend checking out. It is a pretty cool process that he demonstrates. A very creative and beautifully done project, Bruce. Thanks for allowing me to share it here. Next, we have some builds by Ken's Model Works, which include studio-sized models of ships from Space 1999. Here we have a ship from an episode called Alpha Child, and the other one is a ship called Astasius from the episode Catacombs. And here are a few other scratch-built models of his, which are ships from various Jerry Anderson shows. Thanks for sharing your work, Ken. These are beautiful models. And next we have some submissions from modeler Eugene Nolan, beginning with this replica of the Liberator from Blake 7. The model was 3D printed and measures 24 inches. It was painted with acrylics and detailed with water slide decals, and the rear section was printed with translucent resin. And moving into the Star Wars universe now with his next submission, a T-70 X-Wing from Dynamic Digital Creations. The model is 1/17th in scale and as such has a wingspan measuring nearly 30 inches. And they also articulate. It was primed and painted with black from rattle cans, and he finished the weathering using an airbrush along with wet fine sandpaper. Eugene lit the cockpit with fiber optics, and just check out this mini screen he bought from brickstuff.com, which he installed to add to the detailing. Eugene was very impressed with the level of detailing and looks forward to ordering more from Dynamic Digital Creations. I left a link below if you want to know more about them. You did a fantastic job with this build, Eugene. Thank you for sharing. Next is this Bandai 172 Y-Wing by James Bodnarowick. The kit was nicely painted and weathered with Vallejo model air paints. James found the small pipes and detailing to be the most challenging part of the build, but as you can see, it all turned out well. I really do like the red tones he chose for the model, which is a nice departure from the usual yellow. Great job with this one, James. Thank you for sharing your work with us. And now let's wrap up the slideshow with two submissions that aren't sci-fi, the first of which is from builder Nigel Mcloughlin, whose work we saw earlier. Here we have this beautiful diorama of a Boeing 314 Pan Am Clipper Dixie. It's 1/44 in scale, and here it's depicted in some obscure location in the Pacific, circa 1938, with passengers gathering at the dock. This was once considered one of the most luxurious long-distance aircraft operated by Pan Am. The water base is cut from a clear textured ceiling light panel with a cardboard base underneath, which he painted in blue and green watercolors. The dock structures and surrounding details are scratch-built from styrene and includes photo-etched railings. He also used boats and figures from model railroad sets. Very impressive, Nigel. Really provides a nice peek at air travel from the 1930s, and it also reminds me of the Indiana Jones films. And lastly, I thought you guys would enjoy this labor of love for Gilligan's Island that modeler Arthur Lane constructed. Here is a recreation of the SS Minnow. Arthur, like many of us, grew up watching reruns of the show and always wanted a model of the minnow. He told me his family was actually in the boat business and always wanted a minnow, but there were none to be found. Not long ago, he came across an old boat display at an estate sale, and what caught his eye is that it had a bow that had a very similar shape to the minnow, and that is what got him going on this. He took time to research and learn about wooden boat models, then proceeded with his modifications. He had no specific plans to work from, just used reference shots from the show. And here we have the finished model complete with figures of all the cast members that he created to complete his build. I told him that the figures reminded me of the Voodoo episode in which a witch doctor tormented the castaways with his evil magic. As you can see, they're placed here on a sandy background, passing the time away and hoping for eventual rescue. I'm sure you'll agree he did a great job with this. Thanks, Arthur, for sending on these pictures. Well, as usual, some amazing work there. Thanks, guys, for allowing me to share your stuff. If you'd like to see your model here on an upcoming slideshow, just email 4 or 5 good resolution pictures to ismslideshow@gmail. That's ismslideshow@gmail.com, and also include a brief description. Well, now it's time to talk about a product that's going to help you out with model building, and what I'd like to do this month is spend a few minutes on some new products from EvanDesigns.com. This is one of my favorite sources to obtain lighting products from, and I contacted them a little bit ago to find out if they have anything new to offer you guys, and sure enough, they do. Let's go ahead and take a look. First, we have a lightning effect, which is a custom small LED circuit in which the flash duration, timing, and brightness are randomized to simulate lighting. The random pattern will not loop or repeat. 2 mega-size SMDs are included in the circuit and will give a wide range of brightness for your lightning storm. I can definitely see a lot of potential in this, especially with sci-fi and classic horror builds. One suggestion they have is to place cotton around them to replicate the look of clouds. Next is a circuit with 5 synchronized LEDs providing a flash sequence that can be used with starships, shuttles, and other sci-fi ships. As with many other lighting kits, you can specify the type of power sources you'll be linking them up to, so they can be configured accordingly. I use something similar to this with my DS9 Runabout. Here we have a heartbeat or double pulsating LED, which gives a very nice effect. This was designed with the train modeler in mind, but as you can imagine, it can be used for a variety of projects. This is available in a number of colors as well. EvanDesigns has a couple of new sound cards, and the first is a Red Alert. This is a card that replicates that iconic Red Alert sound. I'm sure you can see the potential with the AMT bridge and other Trek models. The sound card can also be paired with their motion detector for when people approach or interact with the build. The next sound card to show you provides a unique Geiger Counter effect that can be used with sci-fi models and dioramas. I have a feeling my friend Ken Spriggs could come up with numerous ways to use this. Very nice effect, you guys. So I've provided links to these products down below, and a big thank you to EvanDesigns for allowing me to share the information with you. A couple things here I want to make mention. If you have questions about lighting, maybe you're new to lighting or have a particular project that you're working on, maybe you see some products on their website, you're not quite sure which way to go, feel free to contact Dave and Shelley at EvanDesigns. They have been very helpful to me through the years. They are very responsive to your emails and are generous with their time in providing some answers for you. They've also been open to designing some lighting systems for me with some projects in the past, so they are open to doing that as well. Also, I want to make mention that any of the links I provide on my videos that send you to Evan's Design about a particular product that maybe I've used on a project or in that video, being an affiliate means that we get a small percentage of the sale to help support the channel. So I do want to thank Evan's Designs for allowing us that designation and giving us that opportunity, and I also want to thank you guys for supporting them and for supporting the channel. Well, since Winterfest is just around the corner here, the last couple weeks I've not worked on a new project, but I have been working on some oil paintings I'd like to share with you real quick. This is Cad Bane here from the Book of Boba Fett. It was inspired by the scene where he has that showdown with the sheriff there, and didn't think this was going to come out, but in the end I think it turned out pretty well. And then I've got another one here to show you. It's my first attempt at painting faces. And I think Spock came out pretty decent here. Kirk, you can kind of see a resemblance there. You know, Kirk's a difficult, you know, William Shatner is a difficult face to capture. I've been told simply because he has softer features. Leonard Nimoy has very distinctive features to his face, so I found him fairly easy to do. But overall, I think this was not a bad first attempt here. I do plan on trying more faces in the future. And I've got another painting I've been working on here. This is not completed just yet, but I wanted to show this one to you because Comic-Con is coming up in July, and I have paid for a space there in their art show to display some of my paintings. So this is going to be for Comic-Con coming up here in July. Well, it's now time to wrap up our video here with a model tip, and what I'd like to talk about is using acrylic coating for homemade decals. Decal making is something that's not very complicated. First of all, you need a printer, either an inkjet or a laser printer, and the two approaches are a little bit different in that with the inkjet you do have to use a spray to bond the ink onto the paper. The paper that I'm currently using is the stuff from Kodiak. I found this on Amazon. I've used other brands in the past. This is a clear water slide paper. And my experience with decal making has been very hit and miss. And the reason for that is I was using this enamel coating instead. I'm not sure exactly why I chose to use this instead. I think someone suggested it. But, you know, testers had their own bonding spray. And I actually had some mixed success with that as well. So through the years I've been trying different kinds of paper. I've reached out to other modelers to see what they use, and then someone had pointed out that they'd use this stuff. Maybe I just misread them because it never really worked all that great. But you know, with the Seaview project that I did, it was that little diorama I recently posted a video of. I had to make some decals, and I ended up sizing down this decal sheet from TSDS and printed it on the decal paper, and I decided to just take a second to reread the instructions here, and it specifically said acrylic coating. So I went over to Michael's and purchased this Krylon crystal clear acrylic coating, and after applying 3 coats as suggested on the instructions, it worked perfectly. So don't use enamel coating is the hint here. Again, I'm not sure why I went that route, but that's the hint this time. And I'm not going to get into actually designing the decals and how I go about doing that. I use Photoshop to create these types of things. I've not gotten too sophisticated with decal making. In the past I've made decals for like the 1/48 scale Eagle, but that was pretty simple. It was just lines and rectangles. I'm sure you can use other photo editing software for the same purpose, but that's what I've used in the past is Photoshop. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to leave any comments down below. Okay guys, well that is a wrap for this Hot Off the Bench. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to leave them below. And Wonderfest is just a few days away, so I've got everything packed and ready to go. I'm bringing Mr. Freeze. I have the Blackheart Models Con Bust. They are celebrating the anniversary of Wrath of Khan this year at the show. I think that's the theme of the show, actually. And I've got Faye Valentine figurine that I did from Cowboy Bebop, and the Seaview diorama. So I plan to enter all those at the show, and hopefully they'll be good enough to receive some recognition, but it's okay if they don't. It's just fun to enter and fun to be there. So for the video that I plan on recording, if you follow the links that I have to the a couple of times that I've been there, the first video I did was really a run-through of Wonderfest, gave you an idea about the show, how it got started, and so forth. The second video, I did a couple of interviews there with some vendors and gave you a look at the show floor and some of the models there. What I plan to do this year, I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to play this by ear. I am definitely meeting up with a couple of the modelers at the show, so maybe I'll do some short interviews with them. Definitely give you a brief look, as usual, of the show floor. And as for the models, I think what I'm going to do is just pick out my favorites and give you a closer peek at those. There are so many entries, it would be impossible, or at least time intensive. I just don't have the time to really put a slideshow that would include every single entry. There are some other YouTubers out there that will do that, so keep an eye out for them. But I think I'll just pick out my favorites to share with you. All right, so I will see you when I get back. And take care, you guys, and thank you for watching.